The bodybuilder that influenced me the most was obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, he was the first strongest influence because he was in the movies. He had the charisma. Everybody wanted to be sort of like Arnold at one given time in their career. Had to, and he came out with the Conan and all that stuff in I think '84, and just the sure. I think the pleasing shape of his body was more so important to me than just how big. It was nice and big, but it was just beautiful arms, beautiful chest, back, stuff like that. Was it was astonishing for a kid like myself to want to be like. Actually, I started to want to get into WWE. I walked into the ring myself and Paul Dillette. And Tori Wilson actually started that same night. But I went to a couple of wrestling camps to where I got a taste of what it would be like flipping into the ring. I got it.
Just go back to flipping it.
Yeah, flipping into the ring and doing the different steps it take from bouncing off the rope to the other rope. I did all these things in the ring. But then I'd already been bodybuilding, so I knew I couldn't take the traveling that they do. And so that just kind of killed it for me right there. But just walking into the ring and feeling that energy from all the crowd, 20,000 people at the LA Forum it was just electric and unreal. I could see how people can get used to that and addicted to that type of feeling. But I took off my shirt and the crowd was just going nuts. And some of the people knew me from bodybuilding that was there at the wrestling match. And K-Dog was one of the wrestlers at the time that was a close friend of mine. And he took me into the ring and it was awesome, great feeling. Milos beat me in the show in Canada. I remember we had the next show coming up in New York the next week. And I got to Canada late. They didn't let me in the country too easily. So I was just kind of pissed off by the time I got to the stage. But even though I forgot to shave the night before, until like the night before, and that threw off everything because my skin was so sensitive, shaving on Friday night for a Saturday competition is just not smart. And I just forgot, until I got there. And Matarazzo took second, and Milos took first, and I was third. But then I turned the tables on both of those guys and won my first pro show, Night of Champions, 1997. The competition around the different countries. I remember going to Russia, and we were late because it was not good weather, and we spent like 9 hours in the airport, and about the time we got to Russia, all 5,000 people were standing outside waiting for us, and they all just split like the Red Sea, just totally like when the bus came up, they were just cheering and going crazy like we were rock stars. And I remember me and Kevin got off the bus, and it was before the competition. We just started posing in the crowd. We got up on the tables, and we were just like, the crowd was going nuts. And I think they took a picture of this, and it was in the magazine. Me and Kevin were just, and he instigated it, by the way. He's like, "Come on, Chris, let's do this, let's do that, or get up on the table, let's take your shirt off, man." It was a competition leading up to it. The whole gym was divided in sections. I represented a different side of the gym. He represented the other side of the gym. And we had face-offs during our training days, in the gym. But it was great competition because it brought out the best in us, And it was just a show that you couldn't lose. It was like this part of this gym was all behind myself, and he had a part of the gym was all behind him. And just the atmosphere every time you went to the gym was the same, very intense. You had to get the most out of your workouts. But I knew leading up to that show that I was a little ahead of him with conditioning, and I remember seeing him maybe 4 or 5 weeks out, and I was like, oh yeah, I got you, and there's no way you're gonna catch me because I'm not gonna let you catch me, not in condition, you know. So by the time we got to the stage, I remember pumping up in the back room, and when we took off all our clothes and stuff, and I was just like, I could tell in his face he wasn't ready. And so I said, when I get on stage, I'm gonna make a big thing about him not being ready. So I remember, you know, one of my heroes was Lee Haney. So I remember when he'd compete, he'd really try to show up the other person, like just make him look silly up there. So I said, I'm gonna do the same to Flex. So when we started to hit our shots for the side chest, I kept backing up into his space and making him move out the way. And I was going to back up into his space. Him and Dexter was up there with me, and I just blew them both out the stage, him and Flex. I think I prepared my body to be sort of like an anatomy chart, as much as the muscle that you see on my body is what you would see on one of these anatomy charts you see in Muscle and Fitness. And just like that was my idea of a great physique. I think a lot of people tamper with their physiques a lot, with things that made things stand out. As far as like, you know, my quads has cross striations every time. Some of these guys didn't even have cross striations in their quads, and they didn't have the hamstrings that I was, you know, with God-given abilities that I had going on. And I would, you know, presentation was there, but you know, to think that you're not supposed to be proportioned and symmetrical, and that was at the time was actually a big thing in the judging, and that's what carried Flex Wheeler throughout his career. Was he was considered the Sultan of Symmetry, and if you have symmetry, you know, that was a whole round for you right there, and he would usually come away with a 5. My fondest memory growing up, I believe, was just the way my neighborhood was constructed, the way we was all together. We had a group called the Fellas, and we hung together. Our girls hung together, and it was a close net of like maybe 6 guys from my neighborhood, and we're still close to this day. You know, we get together, and that's the Fellas. You know, that meant a lot to me because even when I was bodybuilding, they still kept up with me, and they all respected what I did, and they was happy that I got out of the neighborhood. And things could have went a lot worse for me with the law than it did, and it could have been, you know, bad off. Like a lot of my friends grew up. Even when I was training for the Mr. California, I got a call that my friend got shot to death, you know, by some Mexican gang. Just little stuff like that growing up just made me appreciate the fact that I was able to go around the world and do what I felt like I was put on this earth to do. Then when I started to get out and going to the FIBO in Germany, and that's where I met the mother of my child, Amo Height, and I remember just being in awe of like all the people that it wasn't like I was known everywhere, but it was like some people knew me, some people didn't, and it was just takes time, you know, for the magazine's circulation to get around so people know who you are. Okay, you're the USA champion, so everybody want to see you in all these different places, all these different countries, and just coming from that neighborhood where I came from, where you could have, you know, like you could have died just going on the corner that day, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you could have, you know, been involved in some type of anything. Just to go out, and everyone from my neighborhood they were cheering me on, and they were proud of me for being one of the guys that made it out. And being in Spain, I remember being in Greece for like weeks at a time, and it's like, damn, I'm like, man, my friends could see me doing this shit. Like, holy shit, look at, you could walk on the water, it looks so calm. And being in Mexico, so many times, Mexico City, and all the different little seminars and different things I would do. coming to Australia. I mean, I'd be here for like months at a time. Like you can go and spend months in Europe, months in in England, or going to Canada and all these different places that you never like, and they totally take care of you the whole time, and everyone's like, wanting to see you. They want to get an autograph or something like that, and you'll be like in the damnedest places in the damnedest country, and someone knows who you are just from bodybuilding. And it was just always amazing me. I'd be like in the grimiest little place in Chicago or whatever. Someone's like, "Damn, Chris, what are you doing here?" or whatever, or be, just anywhere, man. It's all over the world the same. It was like, man, you really touched the world with this. And some sports they're good, but and bodybuilding just integrated in all the different sports. I think all the sports respected what we were doing with our bodies. Whether you're an actress or a singer or a ball player, I think that was the one universal sport that kind of blended in everything together. And so the journey's been amazing, and I don't know. I don't think I would have changed it. I think it's the way it's supposed to have been. The way the classic physique should be, and was judged, and was, because back when I was on stage with Sean and all these guys, they judged on every single little thing, and I think, like, if you stood there and you wasn't rock solid the whole show, that could count you down in a person's eyes, and that could be one of the determining factors why you didn't win. And I think it slowly got to where I know Dorian changed the game when he just came and just blew everything out the box. It was just sort of like the Sammy Sosa of bodybuilding, just knocked it out the park. And everybody was like, I remember seeing that show and I was just like damn, like I'm not gonna quit this shit, man. There's no way I could do that, So I think people started to want to aspire to be a lot bigger than what they should be for their own physique. Like they wanted to be this thing that they probably wasn't meant to be, as far as, I think there was like for me, like I was not a huge eater anyway, so I can't just say I would have just did this thing to my body, but I always had a moral standard for what the human body should look like. And I remember not eating a lot of food because I didn't want my stomach to bloat, and I wanted to keep a tight waist, and I wanted to always keep a certain look. As far as I always knew because I was always successful in bodybuilding, so I always knew if I had these little things that I had from the start, and my waist only grew from a teenager to my professional ranks only like an inch, but I also had 100 pounds of muscle more. And I think with that in that mindset, it just don't exist really today. Today, it's not the symmetry round, it's just the muscularity round and the posing round. And I think if you made the symmetry round more involved, and actual polishing of a routine more at stake, I think that would change the look and change the attitude of today's. Like, I think a lot of bodybuilders go out there with this, I'm gonna be a rapper type. I need to walk over here, got amateurs walking on this side, spending time trying to like listen over here, coming over here, trying to listen over there, doing the whole Hulk Hogan thing. And I think they spend so much time walking around or trying to hit shots that's not their shot. It's actually a shot of someone else made famous because their physique actually, did that shot well. I see a lot of amateurs trying to do shots that don't suit their body well, and I feel like the mindset is just kill it, big, be big, do all this stuff. But I don't think that's really that person. I think it's like someone they put it in their mind, or actually, uh, I just think they. I think it's a lot of overblown physiques out there today. A lot of them just not impressive to me. I'm just not impressed when I go to a show when they got way more quantity than quality. I think that was a Lee Haney famous saying, because I listen to everything Lee Haney said, whether it's in his video, in his magazines, the way he talked about Lee to Flea, the way he would just like do everything. That was just like the structure that I wanted. I wanted Lee Haney's body, but a little bit more in the legs, a little bit more in the hamstrings. But that was the physique that I sought after, was Lee Haney. And I just don't see any Lee Haneys out there. I don't see any Chris Cormiers really out there for the most part. I remember Kamali got in between us. That's the guy I wanted to kill one day. King Kamali. Just because he had this big, loud mouth from the East Coast that was like, he wanted to just come out and like show nobody respect. He was just gonna go and get his way, and he's gonna do his thing. He's gonna come away to win. I remember his cousin was also working in a bank, and I would go to that bank, and he was like, my cousin's gonna beat you. I'm like, who the hell's your cousin? He's like, King Kamali. I'm like, oh really? So that was I remember that stuck in my head, because I went back to his cousin, and I was like, talking shit back to him. I was like, well, tell your cousin this. And so by the time he made out to California was was a pro Ironman, I was the returning champion. So him and Kamali and I think Melvin was like and I helped Melvin turn pro. Like I met Melvin through a cousin of mine, and I kind of took him under my wing after John Brown and those guys was already helping him. But I took him under my wing in a special way, and I helped him get to his pro level. But then after he turned pro, he was like, okay, I got this, and I'm gonna do my thing, which is cool. But then it's like, when a teacher goes up against a student, that what that can be like. So we're at the pro Ironman, and here comes those two guys, and I remember he was on stage with me, and he even tells me this to this day. He's like, the first thing Chris said to me was, "Get the fuck out of my way, rookie," that type of thing. And I remember on videotape, you could actually see me with Kamali to my right and Melvin to my left, and he was like crowding me out. Like I was in the middle, and he was totally crowding me out to move. And I remember hitting him on the side like this. I said, get the fuck out of my way, man. I said, fucking rookie, and I just stood in my ground. And that was the first thing I actually said to him, ever. And then I went on to beat him, and we had a lot of good shots from that competition. But I remember the next week, we had the Arnold Classic coming up, and he went there, and myself and I think it was the year 2001, and myself and Ronnie, him, Kamali, and I think Dennis James was in that show, I believe, and he somehow came. He had this stupid idea that he was going to get in the middle of myself and Ronnie's hopes of being the best one on the stage. So when the pose down happened, me and Ronnie immediately come crashing together here. But then here comes Kamali doing one of these numbers, right? Like he's gonna move us out the way, and then he's gonna hit his shot. Little did he know that we weren't gonna let him do that. So the lead-in photo in Flex magazine was a shot of me throwing an elbow towards his face, and Ronnie down low with an elbow toward the groin. And he said that was one of his biggest mistakes of his career. I mean, it was like they did an intervention at the gym one time, and I just like wasn't ready for that shit. But that was like, damn. They just all came to the gym, Flex, Enrico, Paul, all the different people, Charles. You know me, at the time I was still strong as hell, you know, but, you know, I was just off my rocker at one time. And I think from that time to when I moved to Vegas, had the house out there, that was just like pouring gas on a fire. And damn. And then, you know, going back and forth to LA because I was on probation, being out there from just all the stuff that from training partners to, you know, then when I even got enlightened, I kind of feel like when I went to England and finally got out there, Dorian was trying to get me to train with him since I was 35. Can you imagine that? And I finally got out there probably 8 years later. But when I did, I was glad I did. You
Is
know?
that one of the things that saved you?
Yeah, Dorian was even trying to talk to me at the time. He was just like, I remember he had me come up to his room. I was in Vegas. I'm itching to go out, you know. He was in his room. He had a big old suite, and I remember sitting on the couch and just looking at me like, what are you doing, man? Like, I'm like, what? You know, like, what are you talking about? It's like, what are you doing, man? You want to be Miss Olympia or what? I said, you don't want to be sitting there one day wishing that you had took advantage of this time. Telling you, man, don't do it. And I was just like, still checking my watch, you know. He just told me over and over in that same conversation, many conversations, you know. But he was that type of brother, you know.